Oh, no, hang on. It's in my ears now. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you much clearer now.
Great. Okay, we're on.
Good. Okay, sorry about that. The children make me have listen to the news on headphones, so I completely forget that the headphones are permanently plugged in nowadays.
Yeah, so I could hear everything. I could hear you tapping. I could hear you breathing. and it was saying on the screen, talking, Judith Morgan, but you couldn't hear me, which was very...
Well, no, that's because my earphones weren't in.
Right, got you.
You think after all, how many years have we been doing this?
Oh, I don't know.
You think we'd have got the hang of it by now, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. You're always very efficient.
Well, what I did was I moved my headset mic combo from one USB port to another, thinking it was me, and then it had to rethink it. Had to re-give me permission. To
think it through again.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
So why don't you kick off with your week then? Because
okay.
This is an extraordinary week. We must warn the viewers.
Yes, it is. And later on, I've got another warning. Anyway, I see my job very much about looking after me, keeping myself safe and well so as not to be a burden on anyone else. And of course, now that I'm locked down, I can't go anywhere anyway. I'm available to all of my clients, and the regulars have all called in this month as normal, and some of the ad hocs too. I even got a request from an ad hoc this morning, could I squeeze her in today? So I don't think, yesterday we weren't doing coaching, we were just talking about feelings, really.
Yeah.
But I like talking about feelings, so that's fine. I'm staying off bandwagons as much as possible, and I'm just observing people's responses, those who seek to manage their own stress by helping others, and locked in celebrities oversharing.
Yes.
Unlike the world's extroverts, I'm going ever more inward. I'm listening to more 4-3-2 music. I'm doing my daily routines of gratitude, brain training, affirmations, Ho'oponopono, and Abraham, all of which have enabled me to greet this mostly calmly. I've enjoyed the simple routines of getting my clothes clean, getting my groceries delivered, ensuring a roof over my head, enjoying the sunshine, which frankly has been miraculous this week.
Yeah.
Keeping in touch with loved ones and those on the same wavelength. I manage my input very closely. If someone says, "Did you see X very scary?" I deliberately avoid it. If someone uses language that offends me, particularly in I Love My Life, I privately and politely ask them to stop doing it. But I think I've got a story here to end this first section I think you're going to really like. My friend Jane was giving me some advice after Boris said we had to stay at home. They've got two homes, one in London and one in Suffolk. And I was asking, because I knew David, her husband, was in Suffolk because he's quite compromised. And I knew she was in London. And I asked, are you allowed to drive between? So, I think the answer was no. But she said to me, "You are low risk. You've been holed up in the back of Beyond for ages. You have not been drinking and clubbing in the King's Road while using Tinder." I said, "That's the best laugh of the week. I think I can get a laugh out of that on the podcast."
The thought of you.
Well, I mean,
a marvellous.
It's a marvellous image.
Yeah,
I have been clubbing in the King's Road. I have been drinking in the King's Road. Never both at the same time, generally, and never while using Tinder. I don't even know how to get on Tinder.
The funniest thing on Tinder I saw this week, I can't remember. I can't remember who it was. They said, just make sure of who you go home with tonight, because you might end up with them for the next 4 nights.
Well, absolutely right. And to be honest, if ever this is joking, of course, and I'm not sure that that's appropriate, but if ever there were circumstances in the world where I would go drinking and clubbing in the King's Road while using Tinder, we're almost in them.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Final hurrah, car, as
exactly.
it were.
You might as well go bonkers, mightn't you?
Well, I've largely been okay this week because, as you know, I'm actually 2 weeks self-isolated today because I didn't go out after the last poker game and have really just gone to the co-op, been very careful with, everything. But as the kids were coming and going until last weekend, although they didn't go out. Yeah, they've been in for a week now. Have I told you about Nelson's part-time job chopping and what he found there?
No, shopping.
Oh, he lost his pub job, obviously, although they've said they want him back when it's all over. But his mate said to him, I've got a job for you. I'm chopping wood up at the farm, and it's very isolated. You can drive there and back so you don't have to see anyone, and it's an ongoing thing because they need wood for pizza ovens. So he had to go up there. When Nelson was a very little boy, he loved tractors and diggers. He absolutely loved them, especially yellow and orange ones. Oh, and he sent, the first day he went to this farm, he sent a video back of him driving a JCB. He was in hog heaven, as they call it.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely terrified, obviously, because the thought of him with an axe was scary enough.
Well, quite, I agree with that. Did somebody show him how to use it?
Yes, they showed him how to use it, and they gave him instructions, 15 minutes of instruction on how to drive a JCB, because it's how to move the big bags of wood around, so he needed to be able to do that. So, and he also sent a picture of him working a circular saw, which was even more terrifying for a mother. I agree.
Yes. I mean, one small slip and you've lost a limb.
Well, no, he says it's very, very health and safety conscious, and it's very, very, what's the word? There's a lot of protective caging around it, apparently. So he can do a bag of wood in half an hour. So I think he gets 20 quid for a bag of wood, or 25 quid. So that's not bad going, actually, is it?
No, I agree. That's a good rate.
And he's out in the sunshine. He absolutely loves that. Anyway, so he's one day he was up there on his own, and he looked over the corner of his eye and caught sight of a horse. And he's never come up close to a horse before, so it made him jump rather. And then he realised the horse wasn't moving. It was in a corner of the barn, and it wasn't moving. So he rather tentatively went over and looked at it, and it was so realistic looking. It didn't move all the time he was going over to it, and it was standing in a pen covered in tarpaulin, but its head was poking out. And when he lifted the tarpaulin, there were 4 or 5 others, fully sized horses, looking at him. And he didn't know whether they were stuffed or what they were. So he finally plucked up the courage to tap one, and it was completely hollow. So he's very mystified about what these horses could have been used for.
Yes,
and
hollow horses being hidden in a barn.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also very spooky to watch. To do the work with this horse watching you, even though he knows it's not real, which made me laugh quite a lot. Thursday, I had an overwhelm. I watched. I was quite good when they did the lockdown. I thought, thank God for that. And then the next couple of days were okay. And then on Thursday last week, I watched, the Prime Minister's briefing, and it wasn't the Prime Minister; it was the other chap. And I just realised. They don't know what they're doing, and they're lying to us about these bloody masks and protective equipment. And I just felt completely overwhelmed. Up until that point, I'd been quite impressed with Boris and his team. But I just thought they're fumbling their way through it, and they don't really know what's going on, and things are going quicker than they expect. So I had a real down day Thursday. Right, okay, so we're on to what's fueled our fire this week.
Yes, well, we've had 2 rave testimonials. One
have we?
From Elizabeth, who left a comment on show number 219. I started listening to Judith and Nicola out of mild curiosity, and now I'm completely hooked. I've learned so much, and it's really made me think about all the different aspects of my life and my business.
Oh.
And then a much longer one on my Facebook page from New Zealand. Hello from New Zealand. My name is Kathy Campbell-Smart, and I've just loved listening to you and Nicola since I started hearing about you both from Art Juice. As a newly started self-employed abstract landscape painter, I'm hugely appreciative of both your experience and the way you embrace woo-woo. It's just brilliant listening to you when I paint, and I just wanted to say a huge thank you. I still have a day job and 2 children, but look forward to creating a fantastic creative art business and being a role model for my son and daughter, and showing them my own true self as a person as well as a mum. To which I said, thank you, Kathy. I love hearing that we've reached listeners, especially across the world. I love that list of 3: business, role model, true self. Can I read this aloud on the podcast, even if only anonymously? And she said, yes, you sure can. I'm quite starstruck. Quote away. I'm more than happy for you to blab my name across the globe. Quite an honour, really, as I love hearing the other quotes, and you have truly incredible guest speakers. Take care and keep well during these intense times, and thank you again.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
It is lovely. What's fueled your fire?
Well, before we go there, can I just request that you copy and paste both of those into? We really need to get
one of them is already a comment on Show 219.
Oh, good. Okay.
And the other one was sent to me privately on my Facebook page.
Okay, so we need to.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
Okay.
Let's move on. What's fueled your fire?
Well, I gradually felt better during the week, and I really, last week was a complete write-off. It was just terrible, really. I couldn't fixate on anything but the news, and I just felt completely unable to concentrate, even with the 432 hertz music. But I gradually felt better, and I've been invited to co-present a webinar with a couple of friends today, which is going to be quite big attendance. So we've had a couple of run-throughs for that, which has really made me feel much more connected to normal life. And an interesting article on my website started showing up with a lot of traffic, which threw up an interesting key phrase for me to focus on, because which made me realise that actually I have got a lot to share still. And I've sort of been feeling a little bit, what's the word? Redundant recently, just because I felt a bit like a commodity. The whole digital marketing thing felt like a bit like a commodity of loads of people in the space and everyone trying to outdo everyone to work cheaper and cheaper, and I just didn't feel very passionate about it all anymore. Just doing things like having, there's a lot of writing competitions around, which I've been entering, so that sort of made me do a bit more creative writing, as has having a lovely meeting with the website, not the website ladies, the Write Club ladies yesterday, all around the world. It was marvellous. Even the 2 Luddites, when it comes to technology, managed to get themselves onto a Zoom meeting yesterday.
Cool. So we've got to focus of the week, which I'm suggesting we might call coping in extraordinary circumstances.
Oh, I like it, yes. Do you want to kick off?
Yes, and it begins with just a reminder to the listener that my number one value is truth. As you know, on Monday, I didn't think I was going to be able to do this today. I was feeling weird. Psychologically, not physically. I just woke up with it. And by Tuesday night, it had completely disappeared, because on Tuesday, I spent most of the day listening to the 432 hertz music. And I'd started to count my blessings, and what I wanted to say today just flowed out of me in one long stream of typing. It seems obvious to me now that this is our war, and that it may be as brutally random as every other war in who it takes from us. And there's nothing any of us can do about that. I've got clean clothes for a week, groceries for 2 weeks, and housing for 4. I'm safe and well, and frequently you say to me, you don't know how I live with the uncertainty in my life, and now we're all living with uncertainty in our lives, and anything else is just a comforting illusion. But there's nothing wrong with having lived by comforting illusions. In fact, I think that's a survival tool. But we must remember that what we focus on, we create, and that's why I have to stay away from so much and manage what I take on board in every sense. And I'm all too aware of the risks of sounding smug when I say that almost nothing has changed for me. And you said today you've completed 2 weeks of social isolation. I began social isolation in 1997 when I sold my accountancy business, because I was exhausted by having lived for so long exclusively in my extrovert half. So that's been my lifestyle choice ever since. And I'm emotionally very well prepared for this, at least as long as we have the internet. And I don't think that's by any means guaranteed. So doing the podcast, to me, on one hand, seems trivial. And when we spoke on Monday, I wasn't sure I could put on a brave face and be upbeat. And the other side of that coin is that I know many of our listeners crave what the Americans call normalcy. So I'm here today very much for the listener. If it was down to me, and it isn't, because there's 2 of us, I would probably take a break until such time as it felt like the thing to be doing again. To me, today, it feels forced, like I'm meeting an obligation, and I'm okay with that obligation. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. But I wanted to make some comments at the end of my rant here about impermanence. My second favourite astrologer, Lorna Bevan, sends this monthly report, and I've got some bits from that I want to read to you on the topic of impermanence. And she said, she quoted somebody at the end of this month's report, which is called To the Edge and Beyond. She created somebody I've never heard of called Andrea Bolt, and she says, impermanence is the way that change falls in love with you, as opposed to us falling in love with change, which we don't really like very much. So now I'm going to read you this other two quotes. I think one is her own, and one is from somebody we've probably all heard of. Okay, so she goes, let the law of impermanence bring you comfort. Becoming resilient in the face of life shocks is not about meeting life with force, but sometimes leaning the other way, letting life work its magic, even if it is painful to you in the moment. And here's the payoff. Anything that comes from presence, possibility, freedom, and love carries the flavor of its origin in everything it touches. I think that's her own words. And then she quotes somebody called Pema Chodron, who you've probably heard of, from a book called When Things Fall Apart, which frankly must have been written for this time. Really? And she says, I think Pema is a she, when things are shaky and nothing is working, we might realize that we are on the verge of something. Letting there be room for not knowing is the most important thing of all. When there's a big shock or disappointment, we don't know if that's the end of the story. It may be just the beginning of a great adventure. Life is like that. We don't know anything. We call something bad, we call it good, but really we just don't know. So that's what I've got to say on coping with in extraordinary circumstances. That's my take on this whole thing.
Okay. I was thinking about this, and I was thinking that I was also writing a blog post about it. I was thinking I've actually been through 4 enormous shake-ups in my life, and the first one I didn't really realise. It was the first 2, in fact, I didn't really realise. The first one was in the 70s when we had to. It was 3-day week, and we lived in Wales, and there was no electricity, and we had to use candles and things like that. But because we were kids, we were largely shielded from the worst of the worry from our parents, and we made fun, had fun.
Yeah, it seemed like an adventure, didn't it?
Yeah. And then the second time was when Heather and I bought a flat in Tulse Hill, just as the property market collapsed, I think, and the stock market did strange things, and interest rates climbed to 18% or whatever they were. And even then, we didn't really even think much about it because, yes, it got more expensive to have our flat, and that was really it. We were living in London, we were working, we were paying our mortgage, it got more expensive, but we just sort of took that as part of life's, because we were only in our 20s, so we didn't
I was going to say, you were still quite young then, weren't you?
Yeah. And then I've had several big shocks ever since, I just trudged along having job after job. I remember a difficult time, then I got personal development, and then things started to improve, and then I started the money gym, then that all fell apart. And that was the first time I'd experienced things falling apart really fast. I remember having a conversation with someone in November who told me it was coming, and then you and I having a conversation in January where we said we had to close the money gym down, and I went from having the best year of my life the year before in lots of different ways, including financially, to having nothing, having no car, having no house. The kids had to go and live with their dad. And that was entirely my own fault because of lots of different reasons, but I hadn't saved for it. I hadn't prepared for it. And I should have done, but you don't when you think everything's going to last forever. And then there's been one more time, obviously, when Steve died, when everything changed again. And I was thinking about how to cope with those times. And we've talked a lot about our coping mechanisms in terms of, journaling, meditating, 432 hertz music, listening to Esther, etc. And I was also thinking about the thoughts that popped into my head. And I thought, I feel like a boxer sometimes that gets knocked down really hard and has the ability to get up, but sometimes it takes longer than others. And certainly after the money gym, it was all about my self-confidence. Nothing had changed in terms of my skills or my usefulness or my personality or anything. It was all just about self-confidence. And then after Steve, it was all just about gritting your teeth and getting through the storm of emotions that battered me for longer than I would have liked, to be honest, but that's how it is. And I just thought, hang on a minute, you're falling into the big trap there. And I suspect a lot of other people will be falling into the same trap, which is the pessimistic trap. And I think, so I remembered that the way to cope and to have learned optimism, that things will work out, is to avoid things, personal thoughts. Don't let it get personal, like I just feel like I'm getting knocked down, life just keeps bashing me. All those sort of personal thoughts are just not very helpful at all. This is happening to everybody who hasn't prepared for it. Pervasive, which means it's all encompassing, all surrounding, all, you're being faced with an enemy that you can't fight. There's no enemy out there. There are enemies, obviously, but there are not. This is not happening because of one enemy with a personal grudge against you. And it's not going to be permanent. There's a lot of businesses that will bounce back quickly. A lot of people are not skint. A lot of people have prepared for this. A lot of people have resources that perhaps you don't. And so it won't be permanent. There will be people with money to spend again. And probably, within this year, there'll be people wanting to spend money again, going out, having experiences, buying things. So it will, certain industries and jobs and services will recover quite quickly. For example, as soon as that pub opens, Nelson will be back behind the bar and he'll have his job back. So I think there are things to think about. How would you do things differently if you had known this was coming 3 years ago? I think we've got to be prepared. But the problem is we are brought up in this country to believe that the government has got our best interests at heart, whereas actually we are just cannon fodder. And the only person who's going to care about you and your family is you and your family. And we've got to accept that. I think that's part of growing up, isn't it? To realise that nobody's going to look after you. But we all sort of brainwashed into thinking that the government is going to look after us. That's why people are all calling now for the government to look after us, because they want to be looked after, most people. And that's not, that's not a criticism. It's just how we are, I think. And then finally, just to think about this week, how to cope emotionally. Rituals and habits and all of those things are things that help you. I mean, cooking this week has helped me. Just going about little chores of getting up, showering, getting my clothes on, sitting down at the computer, having a cup of tea at 4 o'clock. Little things like that are giving me enormous comfort. Whereas before, most of my life, I'd have thought those little rituals are boring, dull, repetitive. And I'm just so grateful for them now. I'm so grateful that I can go to bed at night and get up in the morning and have a shower and cook and hang out with the kids, who are coping extraordinarily well with a complete lack of social life. Both of them are saying they've never been better off because they're earning, but they're not spending. So it's a double whammy. Phoebe is most impressed with how her savings are mounting up. And that's really pretty much my thoughts about it all now. It's an extraordinary time, but I think it's going to, with any luck, a lot of people will examine their lives and how they make their living, and I hope a lot of things will change for the better very soon.
I certainly think thoughtful people are thinking, and in the meantime, sooner or later, certainly by the end of April, we're going to be paid to stay at home in the sunshine pursuing hobbies with our loved ones.
I honestly think universal basic income is the only way to cure the poverty that is being exposed by this thing. Unbelievable. The people being turned out of hotels and people who've got... The
extent to which we expect the government to solve this is because notionally they've created it by telling us all we can't go to work, we can't earn money, we can't go to the bank, we can't go to the grocery store, we can't leave home, we can't, everything's shut down. Everything is shut down. Nobody can do anything. That's their mandate. So we're observing, the majority of us are doing as we're told because we see the logic of that. And obviously I'm at home alone with the 2 cats in the sunshine, and it's absolutely beautiful. And certainly you're at home with the 2 people that you love most in the world. How bad is that? They're still earning. You're going to be paid sooner or later to be at home. And I don't know if you've looked at Martin Lewis's stuff, but he roughly knows how that's going to happen and how that's going to work.
No, I haven't looked at it yet. Is it worth looking?
Well, I'll just tell you now broadly what's going to happen. They forgot to think about self-employed people. Actually, I'm not self-employed because I own a limited company. I'm employed, but all subcontractors are sorry, what do I mean? Self-employed people are, sole traders. They're going to take the average of your last 3 years' income tax returns and divide it by 3 and pay you on that basis. So what you've been paying yourself or what you've been earning, the average of your last 3 years' earnings, just like if you were applying for a mortgage in a way, is the basis on which self-employed people will be remunerated. And I think employees are going to get 80% of their salary or something like that.
But if you're a limited company, which I am too,
yeah,
are you going to get paid according to what your limited companies say they paid you, or what according to your personal tax return?
I've actually spoken to my accountant about that this week. And he said they're still working out the details for people like you and I who are, I forget what the word is for us. There's a special word for us where you're the sole director of your own, company. And anyway, we won't be able to claim it until the end of April because, as they said in those briefings, we're trying to work out the details. So we're a month away from that anyway.
Okay, interesting.
But either way, we'll be all right because it will either get 80% because we're an employee of what you've been paying yourself, or you'll get the average of your last 3 years' earnings pro rata at the intervals that they're paying you. But the point is, you're paid to stay at home and pursue hobbies with your family as the way of contributing to the nation's health.
And because they want you to keep buying things.
Well, shopping certainly. I don't think people are buying anything. I'm not buying clothes or anything like that. I'm not buying anything that isn't. I don't want a courier to come to my house with something non-essential.
Well, there's a steady stream of Amazon packages arriving.
Yeah, but mine too. But Amazon are bringing things like drugs that the supermarket couldn't deliver.
Yeah.
I'm not making a courier put his life or mine at risk for something frivolous.
Yeah. What about all the people who are, they're saying about universal credit, which is they'll pay your rent up to a certain amount and then you get something like £500 a month, which is not enough for anyone to live on. What about all those people who suddenly have gone from
if I could say, it is enough for people to live on if they stop paying everything they don't have to pay at the moment. So if they stop paying their mortgages and all the things that
their bills and their
everything,
credit.
Yeah, exactly. All you do is you put number one first. You feed yourself.
You feed yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of people will be desperately worried though, because credit card companies and people like that aren't going to stop sending nasty letters.
Yes, they are.
Really?
They are. Yes, they
I mean,
are.
we've been through this before, but so we're not scared of people like that. But a lot of people are, aren't they?
Well, that's why I put that message on Facebook yesterday. Stop looking after the banks before yourself. They can look after themselves. Feed your fat self and your family.
Yeah.
Actually, feed your family and yourself.
Yes, so any money coming in should be just to put food
it's
on
survival.
the table.
Yeah, forget everything. They can't sue you because the courts are closed.
Yeah.
They can't collect it because the banks are in chaos.
I think
nobody's at work in any of the jobs of any of the people who you think might threaten you.
Yeah, I think this is a really important point for our listeners because we have been through this before. We're not scared of these people. And actually, at the end of the day, they can't do anything and there isn't anyone to do anything. And if there is automated systems still sending out letters, you can safely ignore them.
Well, it's best if you ignore them.
Yeah, exactly. Don't respond.
No, it's best if you ignore them because if you reply like a nice middle-class, well-behaved person, they think, oh, we've got a live one here and they go after you.
Yeah,
If you ignore them, they think you're a deadbeat and they don't go after you.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so anything else we want to talk about how to cope with the next few weeks?
I think I've said everything I've wanted to say, really, in either the beginning or I think I've described fully how I'm coping.
Yeah, okay. That's it then. That's good.
it is. So I'm going to move along to project updates because it seems like an ideal space when you're paid to stay at home in the sunshine with, not to have to work, to take up some projects. I haven't felt so inspired yet because my project is looking after Judith so that she's not a burden on anybody else. But I have put into my shopping basket on Amazon and taken it out again and put it back in and taken it out again. The colouring books and the crayons, and this is a marvellous opportunity once you've got your emotions under control.
Yes, and I have written more in the last week or 2 weeks than I've written in the last 3 months, really.
Yeah.
So I've completed my character arc for Connie Beecham, who is a character in Holby City and Casualty, as you may well know if you listen to those shows, watch those shows. And the deadline for that is to get that in is the 30th of March. And I've had the Right Club ladies scanning through it for any major gaffes yesterday. So I've written a character arc, a one-page character arc. I've already got my screenplay to send off, so that's something I'll be doing with a view to moving into screenwriting at the end of this year, if possible, with the BBC. We missed a word of the week, so let's do word of the week now.
Oh, yes. Mine's Impermanence.
Very good, obviously, for reasons that are obvious.
Yes.
Mine is Optimist, because although I don't feel like it on some days, most of the time I am an optimist, and I believe that we'll all get through it and something will come out the other side and hopefully it'll be better.
Yeah.
Because I really am very encouraged by how some of our leaders around the world are being exposed for the nutters that they are.
It certainly hasn't even begun yet.
No, amazing. Yeah.
What's coming?
Okay, good. So who or what's impressed then?
Well, I wanted to thank you for recommending last week Babies on Netflix. Now,
I never thought you'd like that.
I actually don't like babies at all, but
No.
I found the programme to be about human development. I found it especially interesting that the scientists, so many of whom were women, didn't actually start out as scientists. Frequently, they were creatives studying different degrees altogether in even dance. It was a man who was a dancer, but then they stumbled upon or found something that really hooked them. And it was curiosity often related to their prior love, like, say, movement or language. And they switched focus and they never looked back. And that's something we say a lot in here, which is my niche found me. Even one of the experts said exactly that in those words, my niche found me. And the other thing, of course, is Netflix has such high production values that they're all photographed very lovingly and they'll all look absolutely beautiful as well. So the human development science is one that I think would appall my sister-in-law and might actually appall you too, which is it's very healthy to have dogs slobbering all over your babies.
Yeah, I found that fascinating. It's well known, actually, that if you have pets
you need bacteria. Yeah. Otherwise, none of us learn to fight it.
And I found incredibly interesting that children who grow up in households with pets are actually less likely to have allergies.
Yes.
Because I was horrendously allergic to
you
dogs
get allergic
you
get allergic by exposure, you see.
Yes, and we did have dogs and cats in the house, so it worked the opposite way for me. I had the most terrible asthma attacks.
Yes.
But I wished for other reasons now that I had pets and children more.
I think the majority of what they teach us on there in 2020 is counterintuitive to everything we ever knew. And I sent a note to my sister-in-law saying, I think this will make you a better grandmother and it'll make me a better great aunt, although nobody will ask my opinion on childbearing. but it was mainly about human development. And we already knew things like children can walk at birth, but we don't let them do that. We make them lie down in a cot. Riveting stuff, really. Yeah,
and it was the other thing that I found really interesting about that series was that a lot of the scientists went into the field asking these questions and found that nobody else was studying it.
Most people weren't interested. No. Most historically male scientists were not interested in anything to do with having a baby, nurturing a baby, bringing up a baby. And when you think about it, it's pivotal to the human race.
I know. And one of them actually said she was specifically warned off her topic of interest by her mentor, who said she would never be taken seriously as a scientist if she studied that.
And also, I don't know if you've read that wonderful book by Martha Beck called Expecting Adam. Martha Beck had 2 degrees from Harvard, and she was warned off giving birth to a child with Down syndrome because the doctors disapproved of that decision.
Really? Oh no, I'd never heard of that. So Expecting Adam.
Expecting Adam by Martha Beck. Martha Beck is, a personal development guru, but she also she's written about her own life. Expecting Adam, I think, was volume 1. And she was brought up a Mormon, and there's another one that's called Leaving the Saints or something like that, where she leaves her religion.
Okay. Well, I'll add that one to my pile of books that I buy secondhand.
Yeah. Expecting Adam is the best one ever. And I had a signed copy by her in which she called me a shaman. I lent it to a client and it never came back. And she said she posted it to me, which frankly, I don't believe. But I'm really gutted about that. But I've read it twice. It's a brilliant book.
Very good. Okay. Well, I'm really impressed by the 250,000 volunteers of people who are so desperate to get out of the house, they'll sign up to help the NHS, even though it's going to make it a lot more difficult to work out who should be outside and who shouldn't, but I presume they'll get some sort of pass. I absolutely didn't have 1 nanosecond of wanting to sign up for that, and I feel quite guilty and selfish about that. But
what are they going to get them to do, Nicola? Clean the floors or something?
No, they're not. It sounds like it's going to be doing all the things that people, it'd be things like that, but it'll be things like looking after people in the community, making sure people get food and drugs and get taken home from hospital.
Oh, so more of an outreach. You're more of an outreach worker than you're cleaning the floors in the hospital.
Yes, I think so, because obviously that would just expose people even more. But the interesting thing, have you read about the viral load thing? Well, there's no point in going back on this topic, is there? We'll talk about viral load next week. The other thing I've been really, really impressed with, and it's something that's grown on me because he's got such an annoying voice initially, is the Kaiser report on YouTube.
I've seen him talk live. Do you remember when I saw Mike Maloney in 2011 or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Max Kaiser was on the stage there.
Yeah. Well, Max Kaiser is a funny little man, and he's got a wife called Stacey, whose hair absolutely transfixes me when I'm watching the videos. I can't at all work out what's going on with her hair, but they are both super bright. They're Brits, and they live around the world now because they had some rather nasty threats from large corporations, because their show is based on the Russian Times channel, but they're obviously not, they're just talking about the world of finance, and they've been really talking about a lot of very interesting things for a while, and I finally got over myself about his voice. And it's every couple of days for about half an hour, and they always have really interesting guests on who are always super bright as well. So if you're looking for an insight about what might happen financially now, then they are really very good to watch. The Kaiser Report on YouTube. And that's us done, Judith. We got through it.
It is.
So thank you very much for being here, and we'll talk to you again next week, hopefully.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.